Last time on What If Sonic, the stars had not aligned and Sonic and Tails never met. While Sonic's life went on mostly the same, eventually forming a team with his old friends Mighty and Ray, Tails had stayed in his home and continued to get bullied, or should I say, Miles. As Sonic was on his adventures, we cut to Miles. Alone without meeting Sonic, he'd stay on West Side Island in his village, but continue to get bullied every day. Months, or even a year or two, would be this ruthless cycle. He had no family to turn to, and no friends to confide with. It took a toll on him, and the once cheerful Fox was always upset. One day, he'd be doing a run around West Side Island to get away from it all, but it didn't matter where he went. People always treated him differently. He'd instead go to unoccupied areas, rest. He would stumble upon the abandoned Metropolis Zone. It looked creepy. He went in anyways. He saw old robots and inactive machines, and it left him in awe. Even after all this, he kept up his passion for science and robotics. He would take these old badniks and machines back to his home and use parts to tinker with. These machines amazed him.
Wow! A genius must have made these.
Yeah, sorry. One-man show? I gotta voice every character. He saw a logo on one of the robots. It was faded but still readable.
Robotnik. Sounds familiar.
He continued to grab parts and machines, and he even stumbled upon old Eggmobile mechs. These kept him happy and optimistic as he would tinker all day. Making robots and experimenting with all this stuff made him realize his true genius. He wanted to show this to the world, and maybe he would be accepted. Time would fly as he began to understand this tech and truly master it. There was one thing he'd spend the most time on, a caterpillar batmech. It was fully functional with AI that Tails had spent time writing for it, but lacked a power source. No animals means no power, so he spent time gathering tech from the abandoned egg bases, and found some schematics for some alternate power sources. Little Planet flowers were listed, but Miles had no idea what they were. There was another thing though, a work-in-progress super battery. It was incomplete and seemingly scrapped. Miles spent a great amount of time until he finally made it. He installed the battery into the scrapnik as it turned on. Miles was amazed and felt fulfilled. He grew attached to this robot, and they'd work together on badnik restorations, together. Miles, for the first time in his life, had a friend. It couldn't speak, or was even that intelligent, but he loved it. But this wouldn't last. Miles tried showing off his creations to the people of his village, and surprisingly, people were impressed. He finally felt happy. He went back to his home to make more creations to show off. Unfortunately, his various bullies caught wind of this and decided to pay him a visit. Miles sat in his home, tinkering on his creations with the help of his caterpillar, as the door was knocked down.
Get him!
The bullies rushed into his home and grabbed Miles as they ran in and smashed up his various projects.
No! Stop! Please!
Miles tried to fight back, but as he tried, one of the bullies grabbed him back, causing a huge scratch on his eye. Miles pleaded and pleaded, but they laughed.
You think you could be anything more than a freak? You're nothing.
His prize caterpillar slugged away from them, but it was noticed.
Hey, we forgot something.
Smash it!
Miles saw it and screamed.
Please! You can do anything to me! Just spare it!
His pleas went on deaf ears, as one of the bullies grabbed a bat and smashed the caterpillar.
No!
Miles screamed and cried, trying to fight back, but nothing worked.
I think that freak has had enough. Let's get going.
Miles was finally let go, but not before getting hit on the head with a bat and being knocked unconscious. He finally woke a few hours later, wondering if it was all a nightmare. He would find out as he awoke, to the horrors of everything he loved destroyed. Miles limped over to the broken caterpillar, with nothing left but a soulless husk of what it once was. Not even the AI could be salvaged. Something in Miles snapped, as he screamed for hours on end. His morals had snapped, and his mind was consumed with pain. He stood up clenching his fist, and wouldn't be seen for days. Suddenly, on a nice sunny day, in Emerald Hill, the villagers were up to their usual, living their lives, but something was brewing. Miles had finished something within his house, and smiled wickedly. An explosion came from his house with old, but functional badniks zooming out of it. They were rusty and formed from various parts, but they were just as deadly. Miles arose within an old Eggmobile with wheels and a cannon. Miles laughed maniacally as his scrapnik stormed the village, destroying everything, and cannon shots fired upon the town. People tried to fight back, but it was useless. The screams of many and the laughing of one was all that was heard that day, as by nightfall this village was nothing more than an ashy ruin, charred and destroyed. That night, Miles left Westside Island with his scrapniks, using the Eggmobile as a boat. He never felt so satisfied in his life. The world would finally recognize him for his greatness. As Miles ventured on, he gloated his scrapniks towards many people, and the ones who weren't impressed were dealt with. Miles felt unsatisfied though, as all he got was praise but nothing more. He couldn't worry about that though, as his aimless wandering left him without resources, and his scrapniks couldn't be maintained for much longer. He needed to find parts and resources. He was wandering a jungled forest of Somerka. Yes, I'm pulling from the comics. And he found something peculiar. A huge base, much in the style of the base he found back home long ago. It was adorned with a similar logo, and had the words Robotnik plastered all over it. Miles knew he could find the resources here, and attempted to get in. The base was fortified, so he needed to use his forces. Miles yelled for his scrapniks to storm the entrances, as he used the fighting to search for a storage unit. He found one and began salvaging stuff. This wouldn't go unnoticed though. Egg Legion troopers and Commander mechs were trying to fight back, but there was chaos and confusion. An officer reported an emergency to the highest commander of the area, the Egg Boss of Somerka, Thunderbolt the Chinchilla. Yes, I'm pulling from Archie, and no, it's not logical, but you know, other what-ifers take aspects and combine them, so would you rather have a logical, boring story, or a more fleshed-out, fun one? Yeah, I thought so. Anyways, Thunderbolt yelled with anger and fear.
What? Rusty old badniks attacking your own forces? Urgh. Send in more troops. We can't let Lord Eggman see this.
Ma'am, we've been trying our best, but our badnik battalions are confused, and our troops don't know which badniks are ours or the enemy's.
There has to be some pest behind this. Any information?
We located a fox running with these badniks, and he's currently in storage building SH2. He's firing upon our squadrons. Thunderbolt shivers in fear.
I have nothing to deploy. This pest has us covered.
She begrudgingly calls someone with fear in her eyes.
Lord Eggman, it's an emergency. We're being attacked heavily by an army of rogue badniks.
Calm down. I'll send in an elite mech to assist. You mentioned these were rogue badniks, right?
Yes, Lord Eggman. The leader's taking hold in our storage unit.
In that case, I want them alive. Got it?
Yes, Lord Eggman. I won't fail you.
You better not.
The call would end as Thunderbolt would cuff her fist with an angry expression.
This pest thinks he can just do this to Lord Eggman. We'll show him who's boss.
As Miles would hold his position, trying to salvage stuff while holding off the attacking forces, he'd be impressed by it all. It was truly a sight to see. His gawking would be interrupted, though, by the sound of a door smashing open, with many of his scrapniks flying everywhere. A large mech would approach him, as he'd freeze with fear. It was an earlier version of what would become E-100-0. The mech would launch its hands at Miles. He would barely avoid them, though, and while impressed with this creation, he wasn't gonna go down.
Come on, I can take you.
Miles would taunt as he charged badniks at the mech. They wouldn't phase his mechanical golem, though, and Miles would get backed into a corner. Badniks, troopers, and this mech would surround him as he tried tail-spinning the robot. It would do some damage, but right after, Miles would get grabbed by the E-Series prototype, as a short figure would walk up to him, and then it'd fade to black. Miles finally woke in a room akin to a prison cell. An egg-like figure would walk in with a serious expression.
So you're behind the one siege in my Somerka base. By all accounts, I should be rid of a pest like you, but you've intrigued me.
Miles would see this and fall to the floor.
I'm so sorry, sir. I was impressed by your robots, and I salvaged ones that you had left behind. I just needed some parts to maintain them, but I got carried away.
These models are rather vintage. Where did you come from?
Westside Island?
Miles said timidly.
I invaded that place a long while ago. You and your populace only live in ignorance of me because of the blue hedgehog who stopped my invasion.
The people of Westside Island didn't deserve to be saved. I used your robots to lay lace to them.
Eggman pondered for a bit before a menacing grin appeared across his face.
Listen, kid, you've got a sharp mind. No average person can do the things you did with my creations. So I've a proposition for you. Join my Eggman Empire. As a badnik production overseer, you'll be provided with everything you need, and you can use your mind for great things. Plus, I think our motives align.
Miles thought for a moment, but the prospect of being loved and not seen as a freak, but rather a genius, clicked to him. He'd finally be happy.
You'll allow me, despite my freakiness?
Miles said, gesturing to his two tails.
Your appearance means nothing so long as you perform well.
Alright then, deal.
The two shake hands as destiny has now led Miles' fate down a darker path.
You and I are going to do wonderful things together.
And that's where we're going to leave things right now. What will happen with Miles now that he's joined the Eggman Empire? How will this affect everything? With his smarts. And what has Sonic been up to? Find out next time on What If Sonic. Thanks for watching.